Coming up on the Truckers Lounge, we sit down with the Executive Vice President of OOIDA, Lewie Pugh, as he discusses his views on Warren Buffett, autonomous trucks, and changes in leadership at the FMCSA. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned. Hey, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button, hit share, and then subscribe. Let's go.
What's up, trucking family? We got a special guest here. We got on with us today the vice president from Owner Operator Independent Association, as we all know, OOIDA, Vice President Mr. Lewie Pugh. How you doing, Mr. Pugh?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
Man, it's great to have you.
Well, I think it's great to be on your show. So I don't know about having me, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you. We appreciate that. If you don't mind, could you give a little bit about yourself to our audience?
Yeah, I'm the executive vice president here of OOIDA. Started driving truck in the Army right out of high school as a truck driver, and then at 21 became a company driver. Was that for about a year and a half, and then bought my own truck and was an owner operator till 2017, 2018 when I come here in the office at OOIDA to serve as the executive vice president. I've been with OOIDA for going on 20 years now as a board of director. This year will be 20 years. And I've been a member since 1996, in fact, of OOIDA. Very honored to have this position. Very honored to be here and serve truckers and hopefully be helping a little bit. As far as my trucking career, the mass majority of that was pulling a flatbed. I'm from southeastern Ohio. Hauled a lot of steel and stuff out of the Ohio Valley, a lot to the East Coast, a little bit to Texas and West, but mainly I was an East Coast guy and a South guy, the Carolinas, Georgia, stuff like that as well. Hauled frac sand a little bit there at the end in the Ohio Valley, and I pulled a tanker and a van a little bit as well, but mainly a flatbed steel hauler.
Okay. Well, we want to thank you for everything you do for the trucking community as far as owner operators and smaller trucking companies. We really want to thank you. We've been watching a lot of you guys work, and we really do appreciate it. That's why I still have my membership, even though I don't have the insurance anymore, but I still kept my membership.
Well, we appreciate your membership, and I'm sure you realize that as far as trucking and advocating for truckers, it's what OOIDA does, just for those who don't know. We've been around, we're going on our 51st year. We were started in 1973 by a group of truckers here in the Kansas City area and around, and they were going to go to Washington during the Arab oil embargo, try to work a few things out, change a few things, and go back to trucking. Well, here we are 51 years later, still fighting some of the same fights.
Yeah, got bigger than they thought it was going to get.
Yes, but that's our number one thing here at OOIDA is fighting for the rights of small business truckers and company drivers as well. And we are a lot stronger when we all speak in one voice. And that's what's made OOIDA different. And OOIDA, the great thing about OOIDA, as you've heard a little bit about me, we are still ran by truckers. We're founded by truckers. Our board of directors who kind of guide things, policies and stuff, there's 22 board of directors are all have been truckers or actively trucking. Todd Spencer, my boss, our president, he was a trucker for a long time and then he's been here for a long, long time as well. So that's what sets OOIDA apart from some of these other national advocacy organizations. We've all sat in that driver's seat.
Right, former truckers. Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Well, before we get into our questions, first I want to let our audience know, make sure, even though you don't have insurance with OOIDA, please become a member of OOIDA. They have a lot more to offer than I really think that they advertise. I mean, if you got questions about dealing with your authority in terms of what you can and can't do, they have experts there that will answer those questions for you. If you have questions about leasing on a truck, the proper way to do it, how to do your contracts, your lease agreement. They got people there that would help you with that and are glad to help you understand and build your company to what you're trying to do. So make sure you get a membership with them.
Yeah, and I would also add, even if you don't own a truck, we advocate for the same rules and regulations, and owner-operators and company drivers have to follow a lot of the same rules. Just like hours of service, we're the last change is from us. We petition, and independent driver. That's a dated name, but from the '70s before deregulation. But that just meant a company driver that wasn't a Teamster from back in the day. We do a lot of stuff for company drivers. We have discount programs both in and out of trucking that helps company drivers. It's $45 a year to be a member. If you see us at a show or see Marty, our driver out there, it's $35. If you call in and say you saw this, tell them you saw this, and Louis, $35. You can get it for $35 as well.
Cool, right. That'll work. Appreciate that, Mr. Pugh. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I know our audience will too. Yeah, go ahead, Gene. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was going to say, that'd be a great incentive for the audience to become a member. To people who are listening. Yeah, a great incentive.
Well, we love and appreciate truckers every day around here.
That's right. Well, we had some questions that we think that would be a concern to the trucking community. The first question was about about Warren Buffett's acquisition and pilot. I want to kind of give a rundown because we kind of put some pieces together that kind of dated back to 2017 here. But it says on August 17, 2023, a story was reported by PR Newswire that Kodak Robotics Incorporated and Pilot Company announced the opening of their inaugural truck port in Villa Rica, Georgia. On January 17th of this year, it was reported by Business Insiders that Warren Buffett and his company Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated took full ownership of Pilot Travel Centers. However, it was reported by Highway News on August 26, 2022, that Warren Buffett bought a piece of Kodak Robotics, which is a company that develops autonomous technology to build driverless trucks. What impact do you feel Warren Buffett's acquisition will have on the drivers' careers in the next 10 years?
I don't think you're going to see a lot due to this deal with Warren Buffett. May really one way or another. I've read some stuff that people in some other articles that I kind of agree the same thing. And Warren Buffett has said this, in fact, that this technology, as far as autonomous technology, there's so much still to get through that I don't think we're going to see anything of any to amount to much for the next 10 years. I just did an interview not too long, just today, early this morning about this. I don't understand how this is even going to work because I can't get my cell phone to connect to my car half the time with Bluetooth. So you're telling me we're going to take semis and turn them loose on the interstate and they're going to deliver loads and everything? So maybe I'm a little jaded, but I got a fairly new pickup truck. I can't get which Bluetooth technology to me seems pretty basic.
Right. So, sometimes I can barely keep my internet connected to my computer.
Exactly. I mean, we look at all these little hitches we have with the simplest of technology. So, I think we've seen a whole lot of these technological companies come in and go out, the Two Simples, the Embarks and stuff.
Right.
Do I think 20, 30 years from now that something can work? Probably. I mean, the big thing now we're hearing about is this road in Texas. It's going to be a 21-mile smart highway. They're putting in all these sensors and all these things. They're going to talk to the trucks, and the trucks talk to them. And it all sounds really cool and really interesting. I personally have asked and still am asking, but I'd like to go take a ride in an autonomous truck just to see how some of this works.
How it works, yeah.
Opinion of it even, and understanding. But it's like this whole smart road, it sounds really cool, but, there's thousands and thousands of miles of interstate highways. We can't afford to fix the roads now, just pave them and fix the potholes. And
exactly.
You're telling me we're going to put sensors and weather and all this stuff on the thousands. I just don't see it. I don't see where you're going to pay for it. I don't think public opinion's for it. I mean, Tesla, they've had their share of accidents and issues with this stuff in cars. And, we as an organization believe you better get this right in a car before you ever think about getting it out there in a truck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
And so like I said, I've read stories where Mr. Buffett said the same thing, and I tend to agree that,
Mm.
I think that in the next 10 years, I don't think we're going to see anything as far as it
Right.
really affecting a day-to-day truck driver.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we did a story probably within the past month where Maersk, the shipping vessel carrier, they teamed up with an autonomous company to run loads from their terminals down in Houston. From Houston, I think it was to Dallas, back and forth on that stretch of highway.
Right.
And so they said that they were going to do that back and forth and pretty much collect data on how that would work for them, because they're gaining for more productivity is what they use for that, to using autonomous trucks.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the data part too, Gene, because that's a real concern of ours here at OOIDA. And we've continued to reach out and complain about this, that the data that they're collecting is kind of voluntary, whether they want to let people see it or not. Now, we think
Oh,
that should
okay.
be mandatory. And that's another real concern we have. Look, I understand proprietariness when it comes to building the product and
Right.
keeping that all proprietary. And I have no issue. But once you start putting this stuff out there and testing it, all that stuff should be available to the general public, and it should be mandatory. And in fact, we sent a letter last fall about that. We've asked NHTSA about it, and we keep being told, well, we can't really make that mandatory right now. Well, why not? I mean, it seems to me, and it feels like, as we all know, truckers are very, very heavily regulated and probably can be argued overly regulated.
Yeah, overly.
When it
Yeah.
comes to safety, but it doesn't seem like we're doing the same thing to electronic vehicles. I mean, I've heard in inner circles, with law enforcement, there's a big question on how are we going to inspect these things, or how are they going to be inspected, or stuff like that. And unfortunately, some of the conversations I've even heard is, well, we just aren't going to do random inspections
Hmm.
to autonomous vehicles. They'll be inspected at the time they leave or the time they get back. And so, okay, you're telling me that a truck with a well-trained human in it who can kind of see what's going on and stop and check it going down the road, you're going to hassle him with inspections, but some truck that doesn't have anything but a bunch of sensors on it, we're not going to worry about?
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of things like that just aren't right or just aren't fair.
Yeah. And like, to me, just based on my opinion, that's kind of the scary thing for me, with the research that we've been doing. We see so many billionaires that are investors in the trucking industry. No blood, sweat, or tears, just investors. And they're pushing for a lot of things that just doesn't make sense. And it's like, you kind of look at the government like, are you going to let these people get away with this? Like, this is not making sense. You pass regulations on us to keep four-wheelers safe on the highway because statistics say that it's been so many accidents and so many deaths, blah, blah, blah. But you're willing to put an autonomous truck out there, and you got Indiana and New York, I believe, they got to fight against that because they're saying, well, if you're going to have autonomous trucks rolling through here, you need a human in it.
Exactly.
Somebody to oversee this, that they actually have blood running through their veins. So it's just kind of scary when you read into it. Like, man, if the people don't stay on top of this, these people will just do anything.
And you make a good point in the beginning here. There's a lot of millionaires, a lot of people who've never driven a truck. And there was a hearing last fall during Trucker Appreciation Week when they had a hearing at TNI just about this technology. And in fact, even in the ATA, American Trucking Association, they had a seat at the table at this hearing to testify, along with some experts, but not a trucker. They didn't have anybody that ever drove a truck
That's
or
crazy.
anybody me or anybody or even a real trucker there to talk about how this technology is going to, the week that we're supposed to appreciate truckers, we have a hearing on technology to put truckers out of a job or out of business or affect the safety of the highway where they work. And we don't even have the common courtesy to put a trucker on that panel. We have people on there that's never sat behind a wheel or a trucker, made a living with a truck ever. That's that's the beginning of the problem. You are correct.
Right.
The second problem is when we come to these people with questions, nobody wants to answer them. I mean, I have a question. A couple simple ones. One, this autonomous truck is going down the road and there's a child on a bicycle in front of it, or a car, or just there's different things out there. This machine has to make a decision on what to hit. Now, I'm assuming it's programmed to hit whatever would do the least amount of damage. So I'm assuming it would hit a child on a bicycle before it's going to run itself over a hill into a ditch. I don't think there's a trucker out there that would not put that truck over the hill in the ditch. You know, that's sort of always been the unwritten code of truckers, and still is to this day. I mean, there's songs about it, everything. So, you know, where's that come into play? The other question I have that nobody really wants to answer is security. Okay, there's a lot of people in this world who don't like America. We see it every day. There's lots of terrorists. I mean, we saw what happened 9/11, stuff like that. I watched on 60 Minutes where a guy with a little bit of some computer guy way above my level because of this stuff, but kid with $300 or $400 worth of technology can hack into a car and apply the brakes and stuff like that.
Wow.
If they can do that to a car, what's going to keep a terrorist organization or organization done like America to hack into some trucks? Because an 80,000-pound vehicle could be a pretty good weapon pretty quick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's
You
true.
know, so those are things that just right there. What happens? What about that kind of stuff? And I know they say it's the latest and greatest technology, but you know, the Pentagon's been hacked into. So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Exactly.
we've seen that.
Yeah, and like everything you mentioned, you know, those are the thoughts that I have that just like make me afraid more so for my family than myself, because I've been out there on the highway. You know, I tell anybody, I trust myself behind the wheel before I trust anybody else behind the wheel because of the trucker intuition that I have. You know, the way we were trained back in the day, you could be coming down a hill and you could see a car coming off the side street and you could tell what move he finna make before he even makes it. I highly doubt an autonomous truck could do that.
And you hit on a perfect thing. That's what I agree. That's like this new smart highway deal they're going to put in Texas, and they're going to put these trucks for 21 miles, run 85 mile an hour or whatever down through there. And that's what I say. Okay, maybe this would all work if all the trucks were autonomous and they were all talking to each other. Okay, but that's not how it's going to be. And you hit right on it. As a trucker, you're trained to drive defensively. That's the way I was. And I jokingly say, but I would see a car out there and I think, what's the dumbest thing they can do? Or, you know, and then hopefully be disappointed that they didn't do it. But a lot of times, unfortunately, you weren't disappointed. And, you know, you got people on their cell phone, you got people reading, it's all out there on the highway. People doing everything they should be doing, but paying attention driving. And you're right. How does that truck make those split-second decisions all the time? Because I got 2.5 million miles of safe driving. I'm really proud of that. But some of that was luck. Some of that, a lot of it I feel was skill. But I had to make a lot of split-second decisions in my 25 years behind the wheel.
Right.
Truckers do it every day, multiple times a day. You're making a split-second decision to save somebody's life.
That's right. That's right.
That is true.
Right. And trying to save yours in the process, but the way we're trained, we're really not even trained to even think about ourselves first.
Exactly.
We're not even trained that way.
Well, and unfortunately and sadly, this kind of stuff is being driven, just like so much other legislation in Washington, D.C., under the bullcrap notion that there's this huge driver shortage. The truckers know that there isn't. It's a turnover problem. There's a shortage of pay. There's a shortage of parking. There's a shortage of appreciation for the American truck driver. There's lots of those shortages, but there ain't no shortage of people coming in this industry. The problem is we bring them in here, we treat them like crap, they stay for 6 months to a year and
And then they
realize
leave.
it
Yeah.
sucks. The job stinks. People don't care about you. People treat you like crap, and you're just a number to a company, and they don't care whether you stay or go. So they leave and they go somewhere else.
Right.
And that's what drives this. That's what part of what's driving this, and so many of these other stupid regulations and stuff that we're seeing pushed on the American truck driver and it's going on for far too long. With the policies being made on a false narrative to keep companies' profits high while keeping driver profits low.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. Well said. Very well said. But speaking of regulation, it brings me to my next question because I know you don't have a lot of time with us, and we appreciate the time that you've given us. December 14, 2023, Overdrive Online covered the story of FMCSA leadership being questioned by House Highways and Transit regarding the speed limiter mandate. In their hearing, Texas Rep. Troy Neal went as far as to question the credibility of the speed limiter rulemaking by referencing a keynote speech he said Robin Hutchinson gave at a fundraising event sponsored by the labor union and large trucking companies, among others. Do you think this had something to do with Robin Hutchinson stepping down?
I don't know. It could just be timing. I mean, God bless Congressman Nels. He's a great friend of truckers. I know the congressman, been to his office quite a few times. And as you saw in that hearing, he is a great friend of the American trucker
Right.
and a great friend of OOIDA's, and he gets it. I mean, he's got
Okay.
all kinds of, and he's a very colorful individual.
Okay.
He talks. But
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, she got drilled pretty heavily at that
Yeah.
hearing,
Yeah. We
and
saw that.
I'm proud to say some of those questions and a lot of that came from the hard work that we do here at OOIDA, and that those directly came from OOIDA. So I'm proud of that and proud of our people in Washington, D.C. and our members for picking up the phone call, because that's why I said we're more powerful one. That's from our members and our lobbyists and stuff all working together to tell these lawmakers what's going on. So when the lawmakers had the opportunity, they called FMCSA on the carpet, and good for them for that.
Yeah.
Now, as far as her stepping down, it could be related. It could not be. I mean, it seems, that FMCSA kind of has had a revolving door of leadership for about the last
Right.
3 or 4 years,
Right. We
under
saw that.
Trump and under Biden both. So, and, Administrator Hutchinson, she's a very nice person, very good lady. I was honored to meet her and get to work with her. We don't always agree, but I respect her as a person and respect the job that's a hard job.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, where it's really hard, and it's sometimes it's almost like they set you up to fail there, because usually, just like Administrator Hutchinson, they bring people in there that have no trucking or trucking background,
Trucking.
and they
Yeah.
put them in charge of trucking. And that's
Mhm.
just, to me, a bad thing. So they have to educate and try to learn. And as we know, there's lots of people who have lots of opinions when it comes to trucking and highway safety. Some opinions are better than others, and I'm sure we can all agree. But there's lots of players in that field. And if you don't have any background, it's almost like you're being set up to fail.
Right.
I mean,
And
it'd be like putting me in charge of the subways or something like that,
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's for all of them in the past, and the last few that we've had. There's been one that had somewhat of a trucking background, Mullen, when he was in for a little bit,
Okay.
but unfortunately, and then Ian Farrow way back. But in the last recent history, and again, it's a appointed position. We're going into election year. Who knows how that craziness is going to play out? A lot of times, better opportunity comes along, and if you're the administrator of anything, half the people in America just don't like you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we saw with Miss Hutchison, is that she had a background in transportation, but like you said, it wasn't trucking related.
Right.
It wasn't truck related. So her transportation background was in Salt Lake City and in Minneapolis, and I think it was a little bit in Boston or so.
I'm
Uh,
not sure about Bob. I know Minnesota and Utah. And that's the problem. Lawmakers, and now we're getting into presidential stuff and their stuff. I don't think they completely understand that, although there's all kinds of transportation, but trucking transportation is completely different than everything. And where I think trucking really gets murky for these folks that they don't understand and lawmakers don't understand. Trucking is probably one of the most diverse industries there are, as far as so many different things make up the industry. You got this guy over here who drives a dump truck every day and never leaves Baltimore. You got this guy who runs from LA to New York City. This guy who's hauling steel from the Ohio Valley to Birmingham. And, there's all these different jobs within. And that's where it hurts so many. They try to make trucking and the legislation always a one size fits all. And we're not a one size fits all industry by any means,
yeah.
And again, they said, well, she, like Mayor Josie Pryor, was attacked with taxi cabs and stuff. It's nothing like trucking.
Right.
So let me get your opinion on something real quick. Ontario, the province of Ontario in Canada, they did speed limiters maybe about 10 years ago. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes, very.
And do you think that the U.S. kind of got the idea from that framework, from them doing it, and decided?
You know that's where it's coming from. I mean, OOIDA, back when that was going on, we put a lot of blood, sweat, and tear into that. Rod Nofziger, who now works here with in-house as our COO, and at the time when Laura Neal, they spent a lot of time in Canada. We got a very good education on the Canadian government up there and how it's structured and how it works, and it's a lot different than ours. And but yeah, we fought that so hard up there because our concern was it's going to show its head here. And it had been, this isn't the first time speed limiter legislation's been out there. It's been out in the past. And it's kind of funny that American Trucking Association brought it up, is behind it this time, but the last time they were against it. So they've kind of flip-flopped on it They've been for it, then against it, then for it. So we've been against it from day one. We're still against it. I think 16,000 or almost 16,000 comments to FMCSA by truckers, which is like record setting. Mostly, I think it shows where truckers are. They're against it. So let's hope the agency does the right thing. But hey, if not, we got the bill in Congress. Congressman McKean out of Oklahoma got the bill out to stop the funding and stop this madness, and hopefully that gets across along with him and Congressman Nels and some other common sense congressmen there. Congressman Collins out of Georgia brought up a good point. We already have speed limiters. It's called speed limits.
Speed limit signs, yeah.
Right. Yeah. A long time ago, we had an issue in a small town that I'm from, and we had to speak to one of the aldermen that we had voted in. And he basically told us to sum the story up. He said, I'm only as good as the support from the community that I have behind me. My whole reason for saying that, because I want to explain to the audience why it's important to align yourself with an association like OOIDA, because with OOIDA, therefore the smaller guy, what we have been seeing with ATA and companies like that, they're more so for the mega carrier. And I just can't see them supporting our interests, because when you look at them being for the speed limiter, to me, I look at, okay, pandemic happened, a lot of money came out here, a lot of entrepreneurs in trucking came in, so that put less drivers in the seats of company trucks. And it just make me feel like that a lot of this is done by design to push people back into the workforce instead of entrepreneurship. And that's just an ugly thought for me to have, if that is true. I mean, it's a dirty game of Monopoly if that was the case.
And yeah, you're correct. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, their membership structure, the way it's set up, is the bigger you are, the more you pay. So
Right.
who they going to listen to? I mean, here at OOIDA, our membership structure, it's the same. Whether you got one truck, no truck, or 1,000 trucks, it's $45. Or like I
Right.
said, you say you watch this, tell them, call in, tell them you watch this. Our membership department can get it for 35. And you're
Right.
right. It is important, though, to be a member, not only be a member, but to be an active member. Because the reason, like I went back with Nels, in that hearing, he held up our magazine, Landline, in the hearing. And he asked the administrator if she read it, because he said he reads it and she should, because there's a lot of good stuff in there she could learn about trucking.
Right.
And you'll notice it was tabbed. If you watch the videos, they're out there. It was tabbed. A member, one of our members, tabs that and sends it to Nels every month. So that's how Nels gets it. That's how Nels found out about us.
That's right.
OOIDA, just to get on to say, we don't have the money or all that kind of stuff that the people who work against trucking, like American ATA and some of our other opposite safety fix. But what we do have is the knowledge and the leadership with the knowledge and the experience. But what we have bigger and better than that is our membership. We have almost 150,000 members of real truckers, real grassroots. And lawmakers, even though they like money, they like votes too. And it's real important. It's so important to you as a trucker to get active, to read a landline. Listen, we send out call to actions, but to call your lawmaker. We have a website called fightingfortruckers.com. It's real easy. You can go there. Everything that's going on as far as with rules, regulations, laws that are currently pending, it's all there. You can read about it. And you can send a message to your lawmaker right off that site. And you can, it's already there. There's a pre-written message, but you can change it. You can edit it. You can add to it. And what I always tell people, you can go on our Fighting for Truckers website. You can send a message to any of your lawmakers from your state all the way up federal in the same amount of time to change something, or to maybe that will make a difference, as you can to put something on social media complaining about it. It's never going to make a difference or do any good.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
That's the thing. When it comes to speed limiters and some of these other regulations out there right now, parking, wanting more parking and stuff, you got to pick up the phone and reach out to your lawmaker, because it does work. I've seen it. And, I hear truckers say, well, I don't know how to talk to a lawmaker. I don't know these rules. I don't know how that stuff works. You don't have to. Just like lawmakers don't know how truckers work. Like you said, your guy's only as good as the community around him. The only way he knows these things is if you tell him. There's only 2 lawmakers that I know that were truck drivers or know anything about trucks. The rest of the 400 and some down there, they don't know anything about trucks. So the only way they hear about trucks is what people tell them. Now, I guarantee there's lots of people telling them things that go against truckers.
Yes,
so be
sir.
a trucker and tell them what goes against you or what really works. And they want to hear real world stuff.
Right.
That's right. That's right. Now, real quick, before you go, I wanted to ask you about the broker transparency regulation. With the language that the broker transparency regulation has in it, I think it has a lot of the trucking community a little confused on what that really means, on whether if they get a load through a broker and they sit for 8 hours and they don't get detention, that regulation helps them, and some just look at it as that it just goes by the rate. Could you simplify that for our audience, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this whole broker transparency thing really started to see daylight in 2020 when the rates fell, and this rule's been on the books since the 80s. We petitioned FMCSA in 2020, OOIDA, to put something out on this rule, or rule up on this rule, and how they're going to enforce this rule, because they haven't. There's been no enforcement of this rule. And what we've seen happen is brokers in their broker care agreements are making truckers sign away their right to the regulation. We don't feel that any private company has the right or legal ground to make any other company waive a right to a law, a federal law. I mean, I can't hire you to drive my truck and sign a waiver that you're not going to follow hours of service. You're going to follow Lewie Pugh's hours of service. You can't do that. So we don't think brokers can do that legally. So that's what we pretty much asked for from FMCSA. We also asked for the fact that brokers would have to provide this in, I think, 48 hours in electronic transaction. Because as we all know, you can sign broker carrier agreements and do all this stuff electronically nowadays. Because the other thing we see is, okay, they'll let you do it. You can call in and say, hey, I want to see the rates and all this stuff. But what they do is say, you'll have to come to my office. Okay, well, if you're a trucker in Ohio running a load to Florida and the broker's in California, you're not going to go to his office. It's just, and they know that. So that's
true.
A quick background of kind of what this is. You are kind of, everybody's a little right. What the rule really states is anybody who's a party of the transaction, the haul, which would be the shipper, the receiver, the broker, and the trucker, they have a right to see all of what was paid. So if you hauled a load and you're being detained for 10 hours, if you didn't have that in your broker carrier agreement prior to taking the load, then it ain't going to help you. It's just that simple. Okay? Where it's going to help you is you haul a load, you feel that this load should have paid $4,000 to you. Maybe the broker took way more percentage than what you feel is correctly. And so you can look at this and it'll show you what the load completely paid. It'll show you if there's fuel surcharge, if there's detention time. It will show you if all that money was in there and that you just waived it or didn't get it in your broker or carrier agreement. But it's not going to get it. It's not going to give you that money if you didn't have it in your broker carrier agreement to agree with in the first place. Now, if you had it in your broker carrier agreement and they didn't pay you the money and said they didn't get it, but you see that they did, well, now you have a leg to stand on to say you can get that money because it's there. The other thing we see, there's a certain broker out there that has a 3-letter acronym that everybody loves to hate, and I understand why. We see in our office a lot of times that after a guy delivers a load and has a clean bill of lading and no problems, a couple weeks later, boom, they hit him with a charge of 500,000, whatever, and you can't. But they don't give you any proof of why. They just say that the consignee or wherever they filed a claim on this load. But they don't prove to you where. So again, they won't be able to do stuff like that either. We feel like some of that's fraudulent, mainly because it's usually an even number. And I mean, we all know in today's world, nothing's ever an even. It's like 500 or 1,000. So we feel there's some fraudulent activity going there. But again, when you sign their contract, you waive your right of the transparency rule and all that stuff. So there's no way legally to find out at this point. And that's why we petitioned FMCSA for this matter, just so truckers, I mean, and we've heard all kinds of things. Well, it's going to re-regulate rates, and truckers are going to know before all these outcries from the broker community. But no, this is after the fact. You've delivered the load. It's to give the trucker at least a fair shake of knowing whether he's being cheated or not. You hear the brokers say all the time when things are bad, well, I'm going to have to take my money out and pay more money out of my pocket to get that load. Well, if that's true, you should be happy. You can show us in your transparency.
That's right. Okay, yeah. Well, that was well said, Mr. Gene. Did you have any additional questions?
No, everything I had to say, he's answered everything well, and we definitely appreciate you for coming in and taking out the time with us.
My pleasure, gentlemen, and thank you for having me. Love to be back on anytime. Don't hesitate to reach out. You know, enjoy talking to you guys, enjoy talking about truckers, enjoy getting the word out about OOIDA. If you got truckers out there calling, got questions, you know, again, don't hesitate to get me back on and we'll talk about them. And most importantly, thanks on behalf of myself and everyone here at OOIDA. I just want to thank all the truckers out there and hope you're all having safe days and get home to your family safe. And thanks for keeping this country rolling.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Be well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.